in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to what I hope is your favorite spot for local sports talk in the area, Ysn Running Point making its return right now. Power Hour making its return at 3. We are so happy to be back. We hope everyone had a wonderful holiday break and had a wonderful Christmas, had a wonderful New Year's. We took over 500 hours off. And we are officially back with you for the rest of the year, talking local sports, interviewing local athletes, and doing all the things that we love about these shows. Anthony Hartwig with you. Ty Bartell, usually on Mondays and Fridays, he has a doctor's appointment today, but he should be back with us on Friday. And the new graduate is going to be also doing a lot of interviews for us that we can use pre-recorded. So you'll be seeing a lot of Ty Bartell as we go on into the show. He'll be back on Friday. Man, I've been boggling my brain the last couple hours just trying to figure out, like, how am I going to recap so many weeks of basketball. We've been gone since I think December 16th was our last show. And it's been, like I said, over 500 hours, I think, to be exact, 574. I did the math way back when we had our last show. I'm not going to go back and do it again. I think it was 574 hours to be exact. And this is the basketball now in January that everyone loves, right? This is where all the teams are in their best. They're striding. You start to really figure out who teams are, what teams are really good at, unless there's some kind of injury or some kind of something going on. But most teams have their full healthy roster. Most teams are clicking and what they want to be clicking at. And this is when we figure it out, right? So when we left Running Point back in the middle of December, a lot of teams were figuring it out. You know, girls had maybe 8 games in their schedule done. Boys, if they were lucky, they had 5 or 6. So those are kind of the games where you're figuring it out. You're testing the waters. You're, as Coach Blanche said from Poland, he was working with rotations, trying to figure out who worked well with who. A lot of teams were doing that, but now here we are in January, second week of January. And teams have figured that out. There's a lot of important conference games in the last couple of weeks, a lot of important conference games this week. We're starting to figure out who's going to be the teams that are fighting for a conference championship. It's a much clearer picture of what teams have a good chance to make deep tournament runs, et cetera, et cetera. It's been exciting. Obviously, it's impossible to recap the last 5 weeks of or the last 3 weeks of basketball. But I'm going to do my best to kind of catch up on where we are and at least recap the weekend, because we had a heck of a weekend of basketball. We sure did, especially Saturday. Saturday was a treat, and it all got the craziness on Saturday got kicked off in Salem, where Louisville and Salem met with each other. This was a matchup that I really wanted last year, because those two teams were, bouncing around in our power rankings in the top 5, and, obviously they both had big names that you love to watch. Kelsey Adelman last year for Louisville. Salem had, Jenna McClash, Abby Davidson. So I really wanted to see that last year. We get it this year. The basketball universe answered the fans' prayers. And it did not disappoint. And when you look at this matchup coming in, it was a high-flying Louisville offense that liked to shoot a lot from the perimeter. against the Salem defense that's known for their defense. They like to keep teams down. They like to keep teams under 40. That's kind of been their mantra. And that's exactly how the game went. And you would think, a low scoring game that stays under 40 probably advantage Salem. It probably means that the teams aren't having a great offensive night, and usually it is advantage Salem, but Louisville kind of stepped up and they played just as good defense. They kind of proved that they are not a one trick pony. They're not only known for their offense, they played just as good defense as Salem did, and this game was back and forth the whole night long. Well, I should say afternoon because it was an afternoon game. It was the first of three really wild ones we had on the network. So anyway, we go back to Salem. It's back and forth. Louisville has a 35-31 lead. This is where we're picking up. 35-31 lead with about a minute and a half to go, right? Salem gets a crazy bucket inside. I think Cammy Rome hit it on an offensive rebound, and then they're down by 2. They get a really quick turnover on the inbounds. They force Brooke Heron to run the baseline after she gets the ball. She tries a little jump pass, accidentally stepped on the baseline. Turnover. Salem gets the ball right back. And then this next play with time running down, and I think they probably had the ball inbounded with maybe 15 seconds left on the clock. The ball skips loose. It's picked up, immediately passed to the top of the floor. Lauren Barton has this much room to get a shot off. I mean, the defender was trailing, but not by a lot. It wasn't like it was a wide open shot. She had about a second of space. So when I tell you that this shot had to be caught, released, and very quickly to be a clean shot, not have the ability to be interfered with, I mean, it had to be quick. You watch the replay of this shot from our angle, and then you watch it from the crowd's angle too. There's a video going around social media that has the angle right behind the benches. It was a very tough three. It was a very tough shot. Catch and shoot was phenomenally fast. She had a great game coming into the starting lineup, opening the game with a 3. Anyway, she catches it, she shoots it. It's money. It's drained. It's not even. I don't think even hit the rim. It just went nothing but net. That beautiful swish sound. Salem has at that time it was 5.3, 5.7 seconds. They put about 2 seconds back on the clock before they gave Louisville the ball back. But 7 seconds left. You drain a 3 that gives yourself the lead. 9 times out of 10, that's a game winner with a shot like that. But Louisville gets the ball back. They get it to Brooke Heron, who drives the floor. And Brooke Heron is known for her driving ability. She can shoot. She definitely shot a couple of threes in that game. Very good shooter. But she's a drive first guard. I think people that watch her game know that. She drives to the hoop, gets a tough shot off. But here's the smart thing. She probably could have gotten a little further in and maybe gotten a little bit of an easier look, maybe. But she was smart enough to know that if I release this ball with 2 seconds left, somewhere around there, my teammates will have an opportunity to try to get a rebound, try to put a shot back up. So she went for a little bit lower percentage shot, knowing that she was giving her teammates time to get the rebound. And that's what happened. She missed the shot. It was short. I don't think it even hit the rim. It was an air ball. Courtney Barwick came from the backside, got the rebound. On the putback, got fouled right as the buzzer goes off. So there was a lot of confusion. Salem thought they won. The referees had to, blow their whistles emphatically. It turned out that they put 0.7 seconds on the clock. They put Courtney Barwick at the free throw line, and she hit 2 of them and gave Louisville the 37-36 lead with 0.7 seconds left. And then Louisville deflected the inbounds pass, and that was all that they wrote back down in Salem. What a classic, right? You would think that's got to be the game of the day. Like, there's not going to be another game that's decided at the free throw line, right? Well, starting, I think my game at Boardman started when Salem was in the halftime. So starting at halftime, there was a wild showdown between Boardman and West Branch, a now healthy West Branch with Sophia Gregory on the floor, which makes all the difference in the world. They came and they battled each other. West Branch started this game. I'm going to just recap this one too. 7-0 run. They were up 7-0, up 13-5. Boardman goes on a 14-0 run, right? So you're thinking, okay, Boardman has control of this game. They've amped it up on defense. 19-13, they were up. But then after that point, it was pretty even basketball. West Branch would keep fighting back into it. Boardman would keep, pushing them back. even. We never saw a West Branch lead, but we never saw a Boardman lead go past 7. So it was kind of back and forth. Boardman trying to pull away, West Branch not letting them. It eventually got down to Sophia Gregory on the free throw line at the end of regulation with about 3 seconds left. She hit 2 to tie it up at 50. Before that happened, there was a breakaway, and this was probably the defensive play of the game for Boardman. Breakaway, long rebound on Boardman's end. They missed a shot, long rebound. Chloe Dennison gets lost in transition. No one's back there. West Branch finds her, and 9 times out of 10, I'm telling you, this is a layup with about 3 seconds left. West Branch goes ahead. They were already they were already tied in the game. But Mackenzie Riccatelli came out of nowhere, and I mean nowhere, and knocked this ball out of Chloe Dennison's hands, and then gave West Branch maybe 1.7 seconds to do something tied up at 50. They tried to go inside to Sophie Gregory. She couldn't get the shot to fall, and we went to overtime tied at 50. Overtime went the same way, back and forth. Both teams were real deliberate. They didn't really rush. You see a lot of teams kind of rush and get in a little bit of panic mode in overtime. Like the anxiety kicks up, the fatigue kicks up. You want to end it quicker, so you're not really as patient as you probably should be. But both teams were really patient on offense. That's why you saw low scoring overtime. Boardman hit a couple of shots. West Branch scored all 4 of their points from the free throw line. 54-54 tied up. Boardman ball with 20 seconds left. They work the offense. They get an inside to Cami Goski, who gets fouled with, I think, 3 seconds left. And going to the line, Cami Goski was 0 for 6. 0 for 6 to the line that day. So she said it in her post-game interview, which you can find on ysnlive.com. Her confidence was shot, right? But she kind of gave herself a pep talk. Took a deep breath, missed the first one, and then she said when she released the second one, in her words, she said she felt the confidence of her teammates and the fans kind of flood into her arms. She released it, and she made it. She went 1 for 8, but that one free throw was the most important one of the day. It gave Boardman the 55-54 lead. West Branch couldn't get a shot off in the 3 seconds they had, inbounding the ball at the opposite baseline. And that's how that game ended. 55-54. Boardman wins in overtime. It was their first game back since losing longtime head coach and current assistant coach Ron Michella. He was honored before the game. Coach Hamilton put a empty chair at the end of the bench where he would always sit. And we asked everyone about that moment, about what it meant to win for him after the game. All the players that we interviewed said the same thing, that we played the way the coach Michella wants us to play, which is high physicality, and pressure defense first. And really, despite it being 55-54, which is, on the high scale, really good defensive game for Boardman, especially after giving up the 13-5 lead to start. You look at that, and it was the way Coach Michella wants them to play. High effort, never give up, and high physical defense, high pressure defense, and that's the way it went for Boardman. 55-54, they get the win. And then you thought, okay, 2 really good games, that's going to be it. But then Fitch and Liberty went in a wild one, and Fitch actually got the win. This is a Fitch team that looked one way the first half of the season. Remember, I was talking about the top of the show. These are where teams start to figure out who they are. Well, that Holiday Hoops Classic at South Range, Fitch found out who they were because they got smacked. In the first game, they were playing a tough Marlington team. They got hit pretty hard, and then they came back the second day and they just buckled up their chin straps and they went and they got a big win in a game that a lot of people probably didn't think they would win. And then all of a sudden after that, they go back, they beat a couple of teams, and then they get this big win over a Liberty team that won a district championship last year, has almost everybody back from that district championship. 47-44. I think Fitch is starting to believe in themselves a little bit. Talked to Natalie Lynn after that win at South Range, and she said some of her leadership kind of stepped up and said, we can't be okay with the way we're playing right now. And if that the change they made a drastic change in that game to their starting lineup. And he said, the leadership said, if you're not okay with that change, then you're not okay with winning. because that's what it took to win. It took that change. It took that kick in the butt. It took that pressure from the coaching staff to go out there and start winning. And Fitch looks like a different team. They're playing much better defense than they were in that stretch where they lost, I think, 6 or 7 in a row. They're finding ways to score. They're finding very balanced scoring, which is important because in that stretch it was if Zeta Creaky doesn't go off, then we're in trouble. And now Zeta Creaky's finding ways to score, but she's also getting supplemental help from her teammates, so she doesn't have that pressure to go and score 25, 28, 30 points, and that'd be the only way the Falcons are going to win the game. It's a lot different when you have players that help you score. So Fitch is looking a lot different than they did in the month of December, which, like I said, in January, you start to figure it out. You start to hit your stride. This is where the basketball matters. I'm not saying that the basketball in December doesn't. It's definitely important and definitely serves its role. And there are some teams that knew who they were at the start of the season and are still undefeated. Garfield, big example, right? Garfield has been undefeated. They've kind of hit the ground running. They didn't have that month of let's figure out who we are, right? So Garfield's undefeated. There are teams that have been playing good since the start of the season, but there are some teams that take time to figure it out. That's why when I'm doing our power rankings and I'm starting to voting for my vote, I start to think like how much does that loss to a really good team on December 15th by 5 points really determine who a team is now. Basketball is one of the sports where you really change throughout the course of a season sometimes. And I think sometimes you can look at a team and say they're dramatically different now than they were back in December. I think there's examples that on girls and boys side. I think Canfield's a great example. They kind of hit a little rough patch in the middle of December. They're starting to figure it out. They're sitting right there in the AAC. You look at some other boys teams, South Range is starting to rattle off a couple of big wins. They got the one over Lakeview of their first conference victory on Friday. They backed it up on Saturday, giving Lowville their first loss of the season. So South Range is starting to figure it out, which you kind of thought it'd take them some time with the football players that were coming off that state championship. They're starting to get into basketball shape, starting to get into basketball mode. That's a big win for South Range. I think Girard, they're a team that yes, they're 8-2. So you look at that and you say, well, what have they figured out? But I think what they've done is they've become more of a unit. I saw them in early December at South Range, and their offense was it sometimes got into the habit of standing around and watching the really special Thomas Cardero, Gus Johnson show. But now you're starting to see Michael Palmer coming off a double-double. You're starting to see other players just kind of step up and say, let's work as a unit. Let's be a unit basketball. And I think what it was, honestly, it was probably that loss to Salem a couple weeks ago. It was one that Girard didn't expect to lose at home. Salem came in and snuck one out from them, 54-50. And I think that was one of the ones that clicked Girard's brain on a little bit and said, hey, we got to play a little bit better brand of basketball, a little bit more of a unified brand of basketball, probably. Yeah, probably was some of the conversations that happened in their locker room with Coach Hammond. So a lot of good basketball being played right now, right in the month of January. That's why it's exciting. That's why we're back. We're going to be talking about it all throughout the season. We have Aaron Gilbert coming on the show at 1:40. Speaking of that undefeated Garfield girls basketball team, he's got a big matchup tonight. They're playing Brookfield. Winner takes first place in the MVAC. They're both looking to win that MVAC. Brookfield has one loss. They've already lost to Crestview. Garfield undefeated. So this is the last push Garfield needs to take a dominant lead into the second half of the MVAC. They've beaten Champion, beaten Liberty, beaten Crestview now last week. They beat them by 11. So they need to beat Brookfield. Brookfield looking to claim that top spot and make it a dog race in the second half of the conference play. And it'll be a home game for Brookfield as the G-men will have to travel to Brookfield. They get this victory, but they didn't on the road at Crestview the other day. So they're up for it. They're definitely up for it, but Brookfield's going to be one of those teams that's desperate. They're desperate for a win. They do not want to be 2 games back going into the second half of the MVAC, because then not only do you have to run the table, you have to hope that someone else trips Garfield up too. So you win this game if you're Brookfield. You control your own fate. You can beat them again the next time you play. and run the table like you have the first half of the MVAC anyway. So Brookfield's got a lot in front of them. So does Garfield. It should be a fun one tonight. We'll talk to Aaron Gilbert about it at 1:40. And we'll also talk about the games tonight before that, because that 1:40 interview should take us to the end of the show. So before that, we should also preview the night that is going to be in basketball and have some fun with that. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have more on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
As fine as the eye can see, the finest hardwoods from the finest trees. Made for your home and within your means, Baird Brothers will help fulfill your dreams. Let life and light come shining through in quiet morns. And heavy traffic, too. Find your easy-to-afford fine hardwood floors and doors and more at BairdBrothers.com.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring golf instruction by PGA professionals, a state-of-the-art practice range, a PGA of America recognized pro shop, kids programs, and a relaxing grill room for a memorable golf experience. For more information or to schedule a tee time, visit millcreekmetroparks.org.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Going from mindful to mindful sometimes requires a helping, healing hand. Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness offers a continuum of mental health and wellness care. At Insight, we're changing the way you receive counseling and wellness services with experienced licensed clinicians and expertly trained wellness staff. With 4 locations in Mahoning and Columbiana County, along with telehealth services, Insight offers clients quick access to care when they need it. Transform your mental health and wellness at Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin. What we're going to do is we're going to recap the weekend, go over the scores over the weekend, and then we'll preview tonight's matchups, and then we'll get to Aaron Gilbert at 1:40 to close out the show. So here we go. On Friday, Western Reserve girls actually picked up 2 wins over the weekend. They opened a boys-girls doubleheader on Friday with a 60-37 win over McDonald, and then they got another win over the weekend as well on Saturday over Middle Ridge. So 2 days, 2 conference wins for the Western Reserve girls. Badger boys, man, they are another game over 70. Their offense is so electric, 74-29. They get the win over Conneaut. They are still undefeated on the season. Wellsville gets the exciting EOAC win, 53-51 over Lisbon. Big win for the Tigers there. We have the Lowville Rockets. They got the win on Friday night over Sebring, 60-23, still undefeated in the MVAC for Lowville. Newton Falls, they're sneakily under the radar. They're leading the grade tier of the MVAC for boys basketball, 60-49. They get the win over Crestview, so don't sleep on the Tigers. Orange girls get the win, 37-32. Remember, their conference in the CVC does girls on Friday and Tuesday until I think this is the last week of that, them doing it, by the way. I think it's going to flip over the second half of the season where boys will be Tuesday and Friday, girls will be Monday and Wednesday going forward. Fitch comes back for their first win over Boardman in 9 years. 50-47, they beat the Spartans. They were down by 18 at one point in this game. But the Fitch boys, they're another team right there starting to figure themselves out a little bit. And you got to be scared of them if you're the Falcon. If you're the AAC, they're leading the AAC right now. And they get the big win over Boardman, 50-47. They have a handful of really big wins on the season, especially that win over Walsh Jesuit in overtime. That was probably their marquee win so far of the year. But AAC wins are important, and they get the one over Boardman. First time in 9 years to beat Boardman for Fitch. Louisville, they continue to win. They get the win over Canfield on Friday, 55-46. Impressive by the Leopards. 55-28, Columbiana gets the win over Latonia on Friday night. Also, United in their in their big night gets the 43-38 win. They had 2 wins over the weekend because they won on Saturday as well. So a lot of these teams playing 2 games in 2 days because of some cancellations early on in the year. Garfield gets the win, 62-55 over Liberty. We have Niles getting the win, 79-61 over Hubbard. Niles boys, don't sleep on the Dragons either. I think they're putting together a very good season. I'm impressed with Matt Kozak. He's been putting together a really good year, I think. Then they have Sam Perone as well. They have a lot of talent on that Niles team. And they've been at multiple games over 70 for their offense. So, that Niles Dragons team, I think a lot of people forget about Niles sometimes in that NE8 because it's been Struther's show for a long time. And Gerard's playing really well. Jefferson's playing really well. But that Niles team, under the radar, they might not win the conference, but they might be able to make a tournament run. Keep an eye on them. Definitely for sure. A lot of talent on that floor for the Dragons. Speaking of Gerard and Jefferson, they played for first place of the NE8 on Friday night, and Gerard was able to pull it out 47-44 over the Falcons. That'll be a big one when they come down into Jefferson. That was in Gerard. So if both these teams continue to play like they have been the first half, then Gerard traveling to Jefferson will be a big matchup later on in the season. Western Reserve boys got the win as well over McDonald. This one was a fun one. Back and forth. Both teams had a double-digit lead, but it ended up being McDonald gets the last laugh. 42-38, they get the win. It was Western Reserve with the last. Well, actually, it was McDonald with the last run. Western Reserve had to hold them off. I was there. That was a great game to call. And congratulations, Western Reserve, getting that big win over the Blue Devils. South Range got the win over Lakeview on Friday night, 61-37. That was their first conference win of the season. And let's see, St. Thomas Aquinas was able to beat Warren JFK 75-64. And then you had Struthers win over Poland 62-58. Struthers still one of those teams that they've been beat a couple times in the league, But they have a lot of talent, and they actually have a Baird Brothers Big Dog of the Valley nominee as well. So you can't sleep on Struthers. It's like you can't sleep on Niles. That NE8 is actually, you look at these teams, it's actually turning out to be a very talented boys basketball league, spread out. I think a lot of years in the past couple, we've seen one or two teams kind of put their foot up on the other ones and be pretty dominant. It's usually been Struthers, but this year, very balanced, very, very good games coming out of the NE8. And that's good to see for the future of the sport. Ursuline gets the big Steel Valley Conference win over Cheney, 80-65. Both offenses putting on a show, but it was Ursuline that had more firepower on Friday. Warren Harding beats Allen 56-51 on Friday. We have LeBray getting the win over Brookfield 64-48. Camel got the win over Champion 73-51. East narrowly escapes Mooney 45-44. Big win for the Golden Bears on Friday night. Waterloo wins their second game in 2 days as they won on Thursday as well. 38-35, they beat Middle Ridge. Waterloo winning in different ways. We've had them have some offensive games where they win by a lot or they win in a shootout. But on Friday, their offense was held down, but their defense held suit. So 38-35, Vikings proving they can win in multiple different ways. Valley Christian got the win over Southern Local on Friday, 50-34. Then we had Springfield get the big win over Jackson Milton, 71-39. I think that's a team as well. Taking time to click. Took some time. I saw them early in the season against Crestview. They had a big lead, gave it up. But there's a lot of talent on that team, I think, when I saw them back in December. Because I remember I was talking about Girard, where their offense kind of got caught watching Cardero and Gus Johnson early on in the season. I think Springfield's offense early on in the season, obviously they figured it out, but early on in the season, they got caught watching Shondell Gardner and the really impressive stuff he could do with the basketball a little bit. When you're running a motion offense, you got to move. And sometimes, you jog through your cuts or you just expect Shondell Gardner to make a drive through the lane. And that can really hurt your offense at times. So Springfield's starting to figure out how to play as an offensive unit. And their offensive numbers are starting to go up because of it. 71 points on Friday, 71-39. They win over Jackson Milton. The Edgewood girls, they are still a very impressive team. And we left them on December 16th when we had our last show. They were undefeated. They are 9-1 now, and they get the win over Beechwood on the road, 66-63. We go to some Saturday scores that we haven't talked about. We talked about those three thrillers on the girls' side. But Sebring gets the win on the girls' side, 34-30 over Lordstown. We saw Niles get the win on the girls' side, 50-23 on Saturday. We saw Carrollton beat East Liverpool, 68-31. Warren JFK got the win on the girls' side over Lowville, 55-46. We have Sebring boys. They made it a sweep for the Trojans on Saturday. They get the win over Lordstown as well, 60-36. We talked about Louisville. We talked about Fitch. Ursuline, big win over East on the road, 29-26. There's another example of a team that is figuring things out in January. Took some lumps early. Definitely had some games where they felt like they probably didn't look like the team they want to be. But you look at Ursuline the last 2 weeks especially, and some of the big wins they've had this week, they're starting to put it together. They're starting to find ways to win, and that's a big game against an East team that has a lot of talent and has been giving a lot of people a lot of problems this year. And Ursuline's able to get the win on them, 29-26. Big win for the Irish. We talked about Boardman, but then on the boys' side, Edison gets the win over Bridgeport, 69-37. We have East Palestine girls get the win over Wellsville, 32-20. We saw Mooney girls get the win over Cheney, 46-27. Beaver Local got the win over Lisbon, 51-40. And we saw Perry beat Orange Boys, 70-60. Letonia gets the 50-20 win over Heartland Christian on the girls' side. And those would be your final scores for the Saturday weekend. Oh, one more. United. I talked about United, but they got the win 61-31 over Urban Scholars. East Liverpool got the win over Oakland 72-33. And then the Canfield girls got the win over Warren Harding 68-35. As talked about before, South Range handed Lowville their first loss on the boys' side, 51-47, the second win for the Raiders in as many days. And Western Reserve girls, as also mentioned before, got the win over Middle Ridge. That final score was 46-31. So those are all your scores from the weekend. Let's go over the games we have tonight, and then we have Aaron Gilbert joining us at 1:40 to talk Garfield girls basketball and the big matchup tonight with Brookfield. Lordstown traveling to Badger tonight. Matt Morrison will have the call. 5:30 tip-off there. Columbiana will go to East Palestine. DJ Oakley on the call there. 7 o'clock tip-off for you. Garfield at Brookfield, I will be there, and that's a 7 o'clock tip. Harrison Central goes to Beaver Local. Mike McKenzie has the call in the Beaver Country. Howland and Austintown Fitch will do battle in Austintown. Noah Rickson will have the call there, as he is your faithful voice of the Tigers, making the trip with them to Fitch. Jefferson travels to Hubbard. It'll be David Williams on the call there. Lisbon goes to United. Chris Sigler on the call at 7 o'clock. Niles at Girard. Ian O'Brien making the trip this time. Poland goes to Lakeview. Our Lakeview friends. Sam will have the call there. And then South Range to Struthers to School, taking care of that. Springfield goes to Waterloo. That'll be a big game. Both teams undefeated in the MVAC Scarlet tier. Waterloo has a couple of more regular season losses that are out of the conference, but obviously a couple of those coming in Florida and the regular season opener to Alliance. They've had a really tough schedule. So they have 4 losses, I believe, overall, but undefeated in the conference, just like Springfield is. So this one's for first place. It should be fun. Springfield looking for revenge on Waterloo from sweeping them last year with the conference on the line. Some other games that will be happening tonight. Latonia will travel to Southern at 6 o'clock. Crestview goes to LeBray at 7. Edison will be at East Liverpool at 7. Champion goes to Liberty at 6. McDonald will be at Sebring at 6. Camel will be at Newton Falls at 7. Lowville at Middle Ridge at 7. And then the Wellsville at Valley Christian at 7. There's also a bowling meet today at 3. Niles versus Struthers. So that is how your night will line up. And it should be a fun night of basketball. A couple of big conference games. Brookfield taking on Garrettsville, Garfield, and then, of course, Springfield, Waterloo. Big decisions happening on both sides of the MVAC. We're going to talk about it with Coach Gilbert, but first we'll take another break. Be back with Coach Aaron Gilbert from Garfield on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers. From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle
and lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history.
No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com or find us on Facebook.
You're not waiting to see what the world has in store for you. It's more about what you have in store for the world. All you need is the opportunity. All you need are the resources of a large university and the advantages of a personalized academic setting where you can experience new worlds in the arts and sciences, business, and education and make them your own. We are where you shape your future. We are Youngstown State University and proud.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa.
And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing.
Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships.
We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. We are going to welcome in the head coach of the Garfield G-Men girls basketball team, Aaron Gilbert. Coach, it's been a minute. Thank you for coming on the show. You're one of our favorites, and we're glad to have you on.
Good to be back here. It's been a while, so it's good to be on.
It's definitely been a while, but the last time we had you on the show was for a season preview, and you were talking about what you expect from this team and some of the things that you see happening in this season. But now here we are, we're in the middle of it, and you guys are still undefeated. So how does where you are now compare to where you expected to be when we talked to you for a season preview?
Vastly different. Didn't expect to be in this situation. Wasn't sure with such a new group how we would gel. Going through our scrimmage schedule, saw a lot of growing pains. Saw a lot of question marks going in. And we didn't scrimmage anybody lightly either. I mean, we upped our scrimmage schedule, and so maybe that was part of it. Really pushing us during the scrimmage time to kind of see what we could do, which was at the same time frustrating because we weren't really gelling, but at the same time, maybe it pushed us to get it to the point where we are right now.
Obviously, we can't recap every game you've played since the beginning of the season, but I do want to go back to the Crestview game. Obviously, this was a big one in the conference. You both came in undefeated in the MVAC. You guys were able to go on the road and get this win. What did that say about your team and the ability to have a balanced offense? It wasn't just one girl scoring. You guys were able to put 60 on Crestview, which I believe is the most they've given up all year, but it was with balance. So what does that say about your team and especially the outlook going forward?
Yeah, I think first off, the atmosphere there was amazing. Unfortunately, a lot of girls teams don't get the big atmosphere, the loud gyms to play in, and I truly felt that night. Our JV game was close. I think the JV game was a 2-point game, back and forth, and I think that kind of ramped up the energy a little bit and got our girls ready to go. And then just to jump right away, I talked about in the pregame speech that, in atmospheres like this, I've coached in a lot of different gyms, both on the boys side and the girls side, a lot of big games, a lot of big atmospheres, but that's really the first one this group has been together with. And I really talked to them the importance of on the road, getting off to a fast start. I use the phrase, make them sit on their hands. The crowd is good if they can cheer, but if they can't cheer, then it's just a bunch of people sitting around. So, I felt that we really, really got to them early. And then they made some runs right back at us. They cut it down to 5 and 4 2 different times, and we were able to respond. But yeah, I hate the cliche of it's a team victory because it always is. You don't have one. I've yet to see a game where the final score is 60 to whatever and one player has 60 points. Even Donovan Mitchell in the 71 had other players that scored that night. They had 120 something, 130 that night or something. So it's always needing a team. But that night I really felt there were some people off their radar that stepped up. Nora Trent with a career high of 16 and Maggie Fogel hitting some big baskets early kind of helped, take the pressure out of the people who maybe the focus was on to say, oh, we got to guard these other people too. And I think that's a big key for tonight is that I think both teams have some players off the radar that, you know what you're going to get from Wellman. You know what you're going to get from Hook. You know what you're probably going to get from Jumper. It's those other players, it's Gibson, it's Logan. It's players coming off the bench for both teams that, if they give you something unexpected, that could be the difference.
And we'll talk more about that matchup in a little bit. But first, I also want to talk about this Holiday Hoops Classic at South Range. Last year, it was a turning point. You kept saying that all year, that it was the turning point for your girls. You were 3-5 going into the last game at South Range, and you won against Ordonia, which really turned your guys' season around. This year, you didn't need a turnaround, but I'm sure there were still a lot of things learned, lessons taught, and things that you took from that event and playing those unfamiliar teams. So What did you take from this year's event, and how much do you think it gave you a little bit of boost going forward into the rest of league play?
Yeah, I mean, first off, kudos to you guys in South Range for putting on a tremendous event, bringing in a bunch of teams from great basketball for 2 days. A lot of unfamiliar opponents, which was kind of neat to see. But you talk about getting tournament tested. You talk about being in a neutral environment like a tournament game would be. And I really think for our kids to have a back-to-back against 2 quality opponents, I really felt like we were able to step up to the task at hand. I know Mooney and Nordonia were both down 1 player, but I felt our kids really stepped up, and each day, you saw a different player emerge. That first game, I think Laura only had like 6, but then Mandy ended up with like 16 as the leading scorer in that first game against Mooney, and really hit some big buckets. And then in the second game, you saw a complete opposite. I think Laura went off for like 32, and Mandy had I think 6 or 8 or something like that, and Shirky had I think right around a double figure area. But that's the thing in an environment like that, in a situation like that. It's just different players had to do different jobs each of those nights. Maybe we needed Shirky's defense a little bit more the first night, but then we could rely on our offense a little bit more the second night. And I think that was a big thing for that tournament and for those games. And now with Mooney being down with us in D3, that's a district opponent we could see down the line. And so yeah, I think turning point this year, no, but growing point, huge, huge growing point to play 2 big opponents on a back-to-back, and to walk away with 2 dubs was even better.
Those 2 wins were kind of the proof, if you needed it, that you can win in different ways. You can win with different players doing different things. How much of a impact is that for you guys, knowing that you can have a night where Laura McCoy plays takeover basketball and scores 28, 32, like you said, but you can also have a night where maybe she doesn't and other players step up. You can have a night where you're playing really good defense and it's low scoring. You can win in so many ways. Having proof of that, what is that like for this team and the morale heading forward?
Oh, I think that's big for not just the players that are the fixture of the attention of media and attention of other teams. I think it shows the other players that you're just as important. We have 3 girls that average between 4 and 5 assists. That Crestview game, that really showed. We had 22 assists on 27 made baskets or something like that. And I think that's just the willingness of understanding what it takes to win. Like, it might not be my night. I might need to play better defense than I do offense. And then tonight, hey, I need to be an offensive threat, and maybe my defense is going to suffer a little bit because of that, or somebody else is going to pick it up on the defensive end and cover that up. I think there's a lot of trust amongst the group. And I really think that 1 through 8 really understands when I check into the game, this is what I'm supposed to do. Whether that be us, verbally telling them this is what you need to do, or them watching and understanding, okay, this is what I have to do when I'm out there to be successful. I really think that has been a huge key to us, is those kids buying into what they have to do for us to be successful.
Coming into this season, I think a lot of people were talking about the seniors you lost and what's Garfield going to do without them. But what I've seen in the games that I've been at is you really aren't without them. Like, their footprints are still on this team, and the lessons they've taught your leaders are on this team. How much have you seen the footprints and the legacy that those seniors left last year on the new leaders this year who have stepped up and led this team emotionally, statistically, and in all the categories?
I kind of think that's the carryover. When I was coaching with my dad back in Tiffin, one of the things that predominantly year in, year out, the seniors are going to graduate and everybody's going to have to step into a new role. And each senior class kind of unspokenly had the mantra of, let's, what legacy we're going to leave. We don't want to be the class that didn't fill in the blank at the football level, win the play, make it to the playoffs, or win the league. I think for this group, it's, we don't want to be the class that doesn't, whatever that may be, win the league, make a tournament run, whatever it is. And I think that's kind of been instilled year in, year out. In last year's group, they had a motivation. When the league became unrealistic for us, it was make as deep of a tournament run as we could. Now, we're not talking about, a league championship yet. We're not talking about a deep playoff run yet. Right now we're focusing on game number 12, which happens to be Brookfield, which happens to be a tough conference game, but understanding that this is a stepping stone to get to where we want to be. From a leadership standpoint, I mean, our seniors have been tremendous. I can't say enough about the leadership role that Cherokee has taken on, both verbally and physically, just leading by example, and also, being our rah-rah player, being the player who emotionally gets charged up and the rest of the team kind of feeds off of. I think she kind of was that last year, and has really kind of stepped into that and been the vocal one this year.
All right, we've glazed over this matchup tonight. Let's talk about it a little bit more in depth. Brookfield, Garfield, obviously this one's going to mean a lot in the future of the MVAC. They have one loss, so they need this win to kind of pull within you guys. And if you guys win, you'll have a two-game lead heading into the second half of the conference. So what do you expect from tonight? Obviously, both teams have the big names, but like you said, they also have some names that are out of the radar that can hurt you as well. What kind of things do you expect from tonight in Brookfield?
I really, watching film and seeing them in person, they're a mirror of us. They almost, position by position, they're almost identical to us, even down to the bench. So it's going to be, who steps up and hits shots. I think getting off to a fast start is going to be key for both teams. If we can jump early, I think that's going to give us, some momentum. If they jump early, now we've got to rattle. We got to rally around and not get rattled. And on the road, it's going to be a tough environment. You've got to play, your A game, and you just, if you can't get hyped for this game, I have no words. It's kind of like you just understand, but you don't want to overhype it because it is only game 12 and you do get them a second time. But at the same time, understanding that, it gives us some breathing room, but that finishes round one, and now we got to go through it, and everybody will be, gunning for us. And that's kind of what I told the girls is, when we are who we are, we've got to get up emotionally 22 games a year because everybody wants to beat us. We are a big win for them, no matter what type of year we're having. The other teams, they're going to get up for their conference rival. They're going to get up here and there, but maybe 8 times out of the season that they really have to get super hyped because that's their big game. For us, it's 22, and that's emotionally draining, and it's one of those things that you have to manage, but you also have to understand no matter who the opponent is, they are giving you their best shot. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've told them. You're as prepared as you can be. Now we just got to go and play and see what happens.
This is a road game. Obviously, Crestview is road too, and you get both of them a second time, but they're both going to be in Garfield. So, how big is it to get the first one on the road and knowing that the next time you play them, you'll be at home?
Yeah, to win a league championship, you got to defend home turf. You got to win your home league games, and then you have to steal some games on the road on your conference. You've got to beat somebody. You got to beat some teams. We're able to go to Liberty and win. We were able to go to Crestview and win. Those are games that, okay, we got that. Now you get them the second time at your place. So, you've got to emotionally be able to manage the environment and feed off of that energy and just be, sometimes you got to bring your own. You don't know how many people are going to travel to Brookfield tonight. I mean, Brookfield's going to be there, but how many of our people are going to go? I don't know. I think, Crestview was a long drive, and I think there were, 20, 25 Garfield fans there, but there were a ton of Crestview fans. So you got to provide your own oomph. You got to find your own juice. You got to find your own motivation. And you got to understand that they're going to score too. You're not going to shut a team out. So just manage the wave, make sure answer bucket for bucket. If they make a little run, then you got to respond with a run. And I think that's really what we did to the Crestview game was, when they hit a shot or two, we came right back and hit a shot or two. And that's going to be the big thing tonight. Cause Sophia is going to pull up 4 or 5 feet behind the arc, jumper. She's going to be pulling up deep, Gibson, she's going to be shooting deep, they're lethal from behind 3-point. I think they hit 10 or 12 against Newton Falls. If they're hitting, they're tough to beat. If they're not hitting, then we've got to use our MO. We got to use our bread and butter. We got to run. We got to get down the floor. And I wish Jenna had another year of eligibility right now. Actually. So, but I just think it's going to be a great game, and we just got to do us. We got to be us, and I think we'll be okay.
All right, Coach. We wish you the best of luck in that game. Thank you so much for the time. It's going to be a big one. It'll be on the network, so if you can't make it from Garfield, you can definitely watch on ysnlive.com. But I'm sure Coach Gilbert would rather you be there and give this team some energy. Get those parents amped up, Coach. Get those 25
Absolutely.
parents.
I get a little amped up for the game too. I'm sure you saw the video that's viral now of me at the Crestview game, but that's just who I am, and I'll hype my kids however I can. So
be the gritty.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll do that again sometime this year.
All right, Coach. It was great to hear from you. Thank you so much for popping on the show. Like I said, you're always welcome. Anytime you want to pop in, just let me know, and we'll get you on. You're a pleasure, and good luck tonight.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Aaron Gilbert, the head coach of the Garfield Lady G-Men, in a big one tonight against Brookfield. It's going to be, like you said, like we both said, there are players on both teams that can really beat you, not just the ones that get all the attention, not just Sophia Hook and Laura McCoy, but then you got McKeelan Jumper for Brookfield. You have Shirky for Garfield. Yeah, Cardinal for Garfield, but then let's say you have Katie Gibson for Brookfield. Hey, you got Callie Wellman down low. Hey, Garfield's been getting a lot of rebounds as well. Wellman, if she's not averaging a double-double, I'd be shocked, because every time I get stats from Coach Forsyth, it's like, oh, she had a double-double. She had a double-double. I'd be surprised if she's not averaging a double-double on the season. She's one of those machines that seems to always put together double-digit rebounds, double-digit points. So it'll be fun, and it'll be a fun night of basketball on the network. We hope you're able to tune in. Power Hour will be coming up at 3 o'clock to talk more about the stuff that happened during the break. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of stuff happening during the week. DJ Oakley will get you caught up on everything that's happening with YSN as a company. It's going to be a fun show. Every time we come back from a long hiatus, it's fun. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll be back tomorrow from 1 to 2. We're going to have some pre-recorded interviews for you. We're going to have Sophia Hook from Brookfield, who's going to be playing and shining tonight against Garfield. And we'll also have Chloe Nieder from Struthers, both in the can, ready to go, ready to be played tomorrow on Running Point from 1 to 2. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you all tomorrow on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood.